The story begins in a derelict apartment hallway, its doors plastered with old notices. Inside a squalid room, a man kneels amidst trash, lamenting the day candy appeared. His face twists into a mask of mania, drooling as he holds the tiny lozenge. He screams in despair, overwhelmed by how easily the country has descended into madness. Text reveals the drug's paradoxical ingredients are just sugar, acid, and flavorings. Elsewhere, a stylish man pops a candy, while scientists remain baffled by its power. He stands over two unconscious bodies, the reason for the drug's intense euphoria unknown. With cold detachment, he dismisses the human wreckage at his feet with a simple, "So what?" Kure Akiryo of the Fuyukiri Yakuza family demands to know why sales are short. A flashback shows desperate men pleading with Kure for mercy. A terrified subordinate explains that the streets of Tokyo have become a war zone. He describes how multinational cartels and mafias are now fighting over candy profits. Another memory shows a man groveling as the subordinate calls their group small time. He suggests their only option is to resort to small, discreet sales to survive. Kure's face darkens, asking if his subordinate just called the Fuyukiri family weak. The man stammers in terror, insisting Kure must have misunderstood him. His subordinate is frozen in a moment of pure, speechless shock. Kure lifts the man into the air, roaring at him not to underestimate his charisma. The man lies unconscious on the floor, a trickle of blood on his face. Kure menacingly asks if his subordinate finally understands the situation now. The other two Yakuza members watch in absolute, petrified silence. Grabbing the man's hair, Kure calls him a monster whose father was a gangster. He warns the other two that they share responsibility and should await their punishment. Sweating with fear, the two men can only manage a terrified yes. Kure lights another cigarette, his expression now weary and troubled. He sits in the trashed office, the unconscious man at his feet, exhaling smoke. He taps his cigarette over the beaten man's head, contemplating his next move. He wonders aloud how he will manage to make this month's payment to his superiors. He considers that this hideout is finished, and he might need to start a new racket. He questions whether he should try to take over another seller's territory. The vibration of his phone cuts through his contemplation. He answers the call, identifying himself as Kure. His eyes widen in disbelief as he asks if the shocking news he's just heard is true. A solemn funeral takes place at a traditional Japanese building. The memorial tablet reveals the deceased's name, Fuyukiri Tadashi. A photograph shows the stern, unyielding face of the departed man. In front of an ornate altar, a monk chants sacred sutras. Mourners in black suits listen intently to the somber funeral rites. A young man with wild hair, Kure, quietly mourns his boss. His grief is overshadowed by a simmering, barely contained rage. Outside, a pine tree stands silently, witnessing the solemn occasion. Later, senior Yakuza members gather for a tense post-funeral meeting. One man pours a drink, grimly questioning the month's death toll. A senior boss scoffs at the idea of a foreign mafia being responsible. Another leader dismisses the Fuyukiri family as insignificant and fifth-rate. This blatant disrespect sends a jolt of anger through the room. Kure begins aggressively pouring a drink for one of the leaders. He tells the senior members to rest assured, his voice heavy. Vowing to avenge his boss, he declares his loyalty to the Yosekai. His eyes burn with intensity, promising to use any means necessary. His unrestrained passion causes the drink to spill over the glass. The senior members are left shocked and appalled by his outburst. A large, imposing man named Minamino glares with undisguised fury. He lunges forward, angrily questioning if Kure has lost his mind. Minamino warns that provoking cartels would mean their complete annihilation. Kure insists that finding and killing the murderer is his duty. The young man's defiance further enrages the senior Yakuza leader. Suddenly, a firm hand clamps down on Kure's shoulder, stopping him. It is Kashiwagi, the underboss, ordering Kure to be silent. Kure looks up in surprise, addressing his superior as Wakagashira. With shocking speed, Kashiwagi grabs Kure's head with immense force. He forces Kure into a deep bow, apologizing for his insolence. Minamino glares, his anger still palpable despite the apology. He furiously rejects the apology, threatening to destroy their entire family. Kashiwagi can only offer another quiet, deferential apology in response. Their black car speeds away, leaving the tense meeting behind. In the driver's seat of a car, Kure remains silent, his expression heavy with thought. He questions his superior, Kashiwagi, asking if it was truly necessary to bow to those men. From the back seat, Kashiwagi tells Kure to listen, explaining those men are the gutless reality of modern Yakuza. He continues, stating that anti-gang laws have turned them all into the police's neutered lapdogs. With no ability to even open a bank account, Kashiwagi says being Yakuza has become a dead-end religion. His tone darkens as he reveals that the drug known as candy has changed everything. Kurei's gaze intensifies, absorbing the shocking revelation from his superior. Kashiwagi explains a single, untraceable pill sells for 20,000 yen, calling it their absolute savior. He asks Kurei if he knows the Joseikai is now buying heavy firearms from the mainland. The organization, he continues, is sending young members overseas for combat training, away from police eyes. Kashiwagi admits that this is the first he has heard of these developments as well. The chairman's grand plan is to build military strength to monopolize the candy trade. He states that Kurei's former boss, Fuyukiri, was simply inadequate for this new war. Leaning forward, Kashiwagi asks Kurei if he understands that he is different from their old boss. A chilling realization dawns on Kurei as he suspects Kashiwagi's involvement in his boss's death. Kashiwagi places a hand on his shoulder, preparing to reveal the full truth of the situation. A bead of sweat drips down Kurei's cheek as he listens, tense and fearful. He quietly confirms he is listening, his face a mask of shock and apprehension. As their car speeds down the highway, Kashiwagi says there is a place he wants Kurei to go. The scene shifts to a dense, brightly lit city block at nighttime. Kurei walks with purpose down a bustling street, surrounded by glowing neon signs. He looks up at the building's facade, its signs advertising karaoke and used DVDs. With a cigarette dangling from his lips, he ascends a staircase lined with adult video posters. Inside the store, he moves down an aisle filled with DVDs, looking conspicuously out of place. He suddenly collides with a small figure, a young girl in a school uniform. The girl lets out a small, surprised yelp from the impact of the collision. Annoyed by the interruption, Kurei demands to know if she is watching where she is going. Stumbling back, the girl states she found it, as Kurei wonders why a high schooler is here. She offers a quick, flustered apology to a surprised Kurei. As the girl hurries away down the aisle, Kurei mutters about the state of the world. He dismisses the strange encounter and continues on his way toward the front of the store. A nervous-looking clerk at the counter recognizes him, stammering his name in surprise. Leaning on the counter, Kurei coolly asks if a man named Yajima has arrived. Inside a video store aisle, a man in a suit coolly asks if Yajima-san has arrived yet. On a city street at night, a girl with short hair gazes up at a building. She licks her finger with a playful smile, remarking on the place's boldness. Her expression turns predatory, declaring she has finally found the one named Sumeragi Akira. In an office, Sumeragi appears in a doorway, offering a casual greeting to someone. A bespectacled section chief, Yashima, waves cheerfully, asking if his guest has been well. A half-eaten bento box sits on the desk, showing the remains of a meal. Sumeragi's focus is locked onto a tablet, showing an image of the girl. His face contorts with seething rage as he mutters a curse at his superior. He explodes in fury, smashing a chair and demanding to know what game Yashima is playing. In a side panel, another man cringes in fear from the violent outburst. Looming over his boss, Sumeragi warns him of the deadly consequences if his cover is blown. Yashima remains unnervingly calm, reassuring Sumeragi that everything will be fine. He explains that raiding the target shop would create a legal nightmare for them. Sumeragi's patience wears thin as he angrily addresses his boss by name. He presses a gun to Yashima's head, warning him not to complicate the cleanup. Unfazed, Yashima's smile remains as he reminds Sumeragi of his superior rank. Defeated, Sumeragi slumps back into his chair, his immediate anger contained. A caption identifies him as a narcotics control officer for the Ministry of Health. He reflects grimly that this is his true identity, putting out a cigarette. A flashback shows a younger, blonde Sumeragi being unofficially scouted by a crime syndicate. The memory continues, showing him after he infiltrated a subordinate YAKUZA group. A symbolic image shows a blade being carefully passed between two hands. Yashima's voiceover explains Sumeragi's unique qualifications for the deep cover assignment. He concludes that no ordinary agent could possibly handle such a dangerous job. Back in the present, Sumeragi impatiently tells Yashima to get to the main topic. He reveals the Koshokai's terrifying ambition to become a Japanese drug cartel. He dismisses his boss's disbelief, stating that he is not joking about this. A concerned Yashima asks if the organization has a specific strategy in mind. Sumeragi explains their plan to deal directly with the manufacturer of candy. Yashima is aghast, calling them fools for attempting such a reckless move. He points out that all candy is sourced from powerful South American cartels. The idea of cutting out these suppliers seems completely insane to him. Sumeragi grimly predicts the inevitable outcome, a bloody drug war on Japanese soil. However, he sees this risk as a golden opportunity to get closer to his target. Yashima anxiously asks if Sumeragi will go, warning him to be careful. Sumeragi dismisses his boss's fear, stubbing out his cigarette with firm resolve. He announces the deal is in 1 week and that he will be in touch. A week later, a convoy of black cars speeds down a tree-lined highway. Sumeragi's internal monologue clarifies the ultimate objective of the Narcotics Control Department. His mission is to find the elusive manufacturer who knows the drug's formula. He recalls that they only have 2 solid facts about this mysterious figure. The first fact is illustrated by the image of a hollow-eyed, emaciated victim. The drug candy has spread insidiously across the entire globe. The second fact is that somewhere, this hell is still being mass-produced. A close-up shows the victim's scarred mouth, a symbol of the drug's devastation. Sumeragi's resolve hardens as he vows to eradicate everyone involved in the trade. The convoy arrives at its destination, a large isolated industrial building. Inside, the group walks through the dilapidated, tense atmosphere of the warehouse. The walls are pockmarked with bullet holes, clear evidence of past violence. A bald man named Kukai addresses Sumeragi, who looks back with a questioning glance. Sumeragi poses a philosophical question to the man about the nature of fate. Kukai, exhaling smoke, seems confused by this strange line of questioning. Sumeragi's expression hardens as he prepares to deliver a brutal verbal assault. He compares the man to gum stuck on a shoe, persistent and foul. Kukai acknowledges that this assessment is fitting for the person in question. Sumeragi recounts the man's tragic past, a family completely destroyed by candy. He details how the man's mother suffered a mental breakdown from withdrawal. Kukai coldly remarks that he has no interest in hearing about past struggles. Sumeragi feigns a sigh, continuing his psychological attack on his target. He mocks the man's old-fashioned loyalty to the organization that ruined him. The blond man stammers in confusion, unable to comprehend the verbal assault. Suddenly, Kukai raises a pistol, pointing it directly at Sumeragi's head. Sumeragi's eyes widen in pure shock, his cover completely and utterly blown. A gunshot explodes, the impact throwing Sumeragi violently backward. A dark stain blossoms on his white jacket as he clutches the fresh wound. Kukai states with regret that he knows Sumeragi is an undercover investigator. He reveals the meeting was a lie, a setup for an execution. Surrounded by armed men, he tells Sumeragi this is his final destination. Instead of collapsing, Sumeragi begins to laugh, admitting his fate has been strange. He mockingly agrees that it all ends for him here in this warehouse. Though grievously wounded, he remains defiant, breathing heavily but still standing. He asks how his cover was blown, taunting Kukai as a low-level thug. Kukai replies that the answer to his question is simple and direct. He states that the outcome was decided from the very beginning. A voice crackles in Sumeragi's earpiece. He recognizes his boss, Yashima. Yashima's manic voice confirms his betrayal, shouting that Sumeragi is finished. His face is a mask of pure glee, his eyes swirling with madness. He explains his terror of the higher-ups and his obsession with candy. He laughs, declaring he's already finished, so he might as well go down fighting. The full extent of his betrayal becomes clear as he addresses Sumeragi. Yashima reveals he has been feeding information to other agencies to build trust. He tells Kukai, via the earpiece, that he won't be used by them. He offers to elevate Kukai by having him present the head of the real agent. Back in the warehouse, Kukai asks if this is glorious, calling Sumeragi a foundation stone. As Kukai prepares to fire the final shot, Sumeragi looks up, his fear gone. A defiant, almost feral grin spreads across his bloodied face. In a blur of motion, Sumeragi lunges forward, grabbing Kukai's gun hand. Kukai observes that Sumeragi saved him, but Sumeragi dismisses it as a pain. Kukai's eyes widen in disbelief at his adversary's incredible strength. Sumeragi twists the man's wrist, turning the gun back on him. The bald man grunts in pain and effort, overwhelmed by the sudden turn. Sumeragi declares that he will not be hiding or acting subservient any longer. He grins predatorily, stating he won't bow his head to a mere seller. A boss figure, enraged, screams at his remaining subordinates to kill him. A nervous underling looks on in shock at the escalating chaos. The boss orders his men to stop hesitating and shoot to kill. The room erupts in a hail of gunfire as the men open fire. Sumeragi, with a grimly determined expression, moves through the bullets. He grabs the terrified boss, yanking him directly into the line of fire. The boss screams in agony as bullets from his own men tear through his body. In a chaotic room, Utsui uses an attacker as a human shield, firing his pistol. The shield lets out a scream as a bullet tears through his head. With a grimace, Utsui returns fire at 2 other gunmen across the room. He violently shoves the dead body into another one of his assailants. The remaining thugs shout a warning, telling him not to get behind them. With a ferocious battle cry, Utsui launches himself into the remaining group. A bald onlooker stares in shock, muttering that Utsui is a monster. Utsui lands a devastating punch, the brutal impact sending another man flying. He stands panting as the last few gunmen take aim at him. Wounded and exhausted, Utsui admits to himself that this many is impossible. A sudden, dawning realization crosses his face as an idea forms. A portly man emerges from a doorway, identifying Utsui as the biggest pest. The man's face contorts in terror as he begs Utsui to stop. Utsui leaps into a flying kick, his foot shattering the man's face. He lands gracefully, leaving the man a crumpled heap on the floor. The victim lies unconscious, his face a bloody and broken mess. Utsui lights a cigarette, trying to catch his breath after the fight. The bald man sneaks up from behind, stating he must do his job. Utsui's eye widens in disbelief as he realizes the betrayal. He grits his teeth, a cigarette clamped between them, cursing his fate. The heavy bat connects with a sickening thud, sending him down. A memory surfaces of his blood-spattered mother wielding a kitchen knife. She laments having no more money to buy the substance called candy. The memory shows her advancing on a young Utsui shielding another child. Crying, the young Utsui desperately begs his mother to stop her madness. His mother's eye fills with tears as she offers a pained apology. She raises the bloody knife, saying she is too lonely to die alone. Utsui's consciousness returns to an inverted view of his own disoriented face. His eyes flutter open, focusing on a bare, flickering light bulb above. He finds his hand trapped in a crude wooden vise, confirming his capture. A voice from off-panel calmly addresses him by his name, Utsui. The bald man and his associates announce that he is finally awake. Utsui's eye widens in terror, grasping the horror of his new situation. In a moment of pure agony, a man's eye widens with terror. He is brutally nailed to a chair, his twitching hand knocking over a piggy bank. His captor's face contorts into a mask of cruel, maniacal laughter. The bald accomplice joins in, mocking the broken man at his feet. The ringleader expresses frustration that his victim keeps losing consciousness during the ordeal. He promises the torture will continue for nights before displaying the man's corpse in Tokyo. His associate sneers that no one, not even the police, will dare defy them now. The ringleader lays out his vision for Japan, a paradise for villains ruled by fear. The bald man taunts his prisoner, asking him to watch over them from hell. Resigned to his fate, the victim wonders if this is truly how he will die. With his head bowed in defeat, a single drop of sweat falls from his face. A young girl's voice expresses childlike awe at the horrific scene. Appearing beside him, she notes his pain and cheerfully offers to help. The tortured man looks up, his face a mask of utter shock and confusion. The girl lands gracefully as if appearing from thin air. She recognizes him from a store and asks if he is doing all right. Tipping her cap, she prepares to properly introduce herself. She announces her name as Hoshina Riri and that she is a magical girl. The bald thug, stunned, demands to know what she is and how she got in. With a calm smile, Riri informs him that this is a private matter. The thug's eye twitches with rage behind his sunglasses. The ringleader furiously orders his men to shoot her along with their captive. One of the henchmen immediately aims his pistol and opens fire. Bullets fly through the air, streaking directly toward the calm young girl. She notes how dangerous their actions are as a magical star sigil appears. Her magic effortlessly stops the bullets in mid-flight. The spent cartridges fall harmlessly to the floor with a series of soft clicks. Her prisoner and his torturers can only stare in stunned disbelief. Riri turns to them, offering to explain the true identity of candy. She states that the drug is, in fact, nothing special at all. As the thug's gun shatters, she reveals it is merely an object imbued with magic. This power, she explains, is enough to destroy a normal mind, creating the ultimate narcotic. Addressing Akio Utsui by name, she asks if this revelation is new to him. A man with dark curly hair stares in shock as a girl points a wand at him. The glowing star-tipped wand shines brightly as she utters a single command to rewind. He is shown in his tortured state, his left arm severed and body pierced with nails. As a magical sigil appears beneath him, the nails are expelled from his feet. Glowing patterns form on his body, reversing the damage and sealing his wounds. His severed arm is shown regenerating completely, accompanied by glowing rewind symbols. Staring at his restored hand, he wonders if this incredible power is his own magic. The girl responsible for the miracle simply offers a serene and knowing smile. She playfully asks why he is so surprised, explaining it's natural for a magical girl. The man Suhai reacts with furious disbelief, wondering if he's hallucinating. Leaning in close, she announces that it is time to get down to business. Now freed, Suhai stands as she proposes a deal to his horrified torturers. A sudden, violent noise erupts, and he instinctively pulls her behind him for protection. A gruesome corpse hits the floor, a victim of the chaos that has just begun. A bald, tattooed thug aims a gun, vowing to kill the two brats. Suhai clicks his tongue in annoyance as the girl stands beside him, hands on her hips. The other thugs complain that she has interrupted their important business negotiation. She brandishes her wand, asking if the price for her interference is too high. With gleaming, star-filled eyes, she contemptuously refers to the gangsters as oversized trash. Her wand emits a cascade of magical light and star-shaped symbols that fill the air. From above, the glowing icons are seen swirling around the bewildered thugs. The magical rewind symbols surround the men, who are frozen in utter confusion. The bald gunman stammers, demanding to know what is happening to them. The girl's smile widens into a predatory grin as she playfully mimics a gunshot. A silent, instantaneous explosion of gore erupts, completely annihilating the thugs. A close-up shows a mangled corpse, its face a rictus of pure agony. She explains she rewound time by 12 hours to set up guns in their exact positions. Pointing cheerfully, she tells the lone survivor to just die quickly now that he understands. Stepping into the pool of blood, she announces it is time to proceed. Turning back to Suhai, she suggests they return to the main topic at hand. Amidst the blood-spattered room, she makes a formal proposition directly to him. She asks Suhai to join forces with her to find the manufacturer of candy. He stares back, his mind utterly unable to process the bloody massacre he just witnessed. A young woman in a school uniform responds to an unseen person's disbelief about her being a magical girl. She playfully explains that he has no right to refuse her offer, hinting that her magic can reverse his injuries, which only leaves him exclaiming that the whole situation is utterly baffling. A young girl with star-shaped pupils leans in, asking if he understands he's being threatened. From behind, the man quietly agrees to her terms as the girl looks on with a smile. Now facing her, he accepts the deal but demands she first explain her plan. With a cigarette in his mouth, he realizes their objectives are the same. The girl's knowing expression shows she believes their goals were laughably identical from the start. In his office, boss Koyanagi recalls Suhai's difficult situation and a surprising team-up. Pouring a drink, the boss tells Suhai he noticed his work and will take responsibility. The boss dismisses the awkward exchange, telling him to prove his sincerity with his work. The boss expresses his high expectations for Suhai, whose face is shown in intense close-up. Sitting alone, Suhai clutches a cup, wondering how his situation became so complicated. He realizes he's an undercover agent whose cover has been inexplicably blown. The betrayal of Yajima meant Kashiwagi knew his identity and planned to kill him. He wonders why the organization's executives were not informed of his true identity. A close-up reveals his intense gaze as he ponders the reason for this. The girl explains that Kashiwagi deliberately withheld information to take all the credit himself. Suhai's face contorts in a silent scream of disbelief at this revelation. The girl recalls telling him not to look so frightened as he gripped the desk. She remembers him shouting at her, asking why she was in the boss's office. She giggles as she recalls him telling her to smile and not look so scary. His head slams down on the desk in a moment of sheer desperation. The boss, Akoyanagi, looks up from his desk, bewildered by Suhai's outburst. Suhai recovers, claiming he was just overcome with a moment of deep emotion. A sharp glint appears in his eye, his composure regained. He throws himself to his knees in a desperate covering gesture. He dramatically pledges his entire being to serving boss Akoyanagi and the organization. The boss is confused, wondering how no one noticed the girl just sitting there. The girl thinks to herself that this is getting interesting, and she will kill him later. A black car speeds down the street, carrying them to their next destination. Inside, Akoyanagi's subordinate looks out the window, a look of bewilderment on his face. In the back seat, Suhai angrily eats a rice ball, his frustration palpable. The girl sitting beside him simply says that she doesn't understand. She recounts his recent promotion, but he furiously asks why Yajima never told him anything. She holds up a piece of candy, explaining she filled him with her magic. A vision shows a man overdosing on high-purity candy, unable to speak coherently. Suhai, now wearing glasses, demands to know what she was planning. The girl holding a pair of chopsticks cheerfully adds there's more to her plan. She reveals Akoyanagi's private army, led by the rumored manufacturer of candy. Suhai sweats, confirming that this intelligence is correct, but waits for more. Their shared goal is to find the manufacturer who knows the drug's formula. He looks at her expectantly, asking what the next step is. With a wry smile, he mockingly refers to her as a magical girl. He asks if she is also after the manufacturer, comparing it to a kid's cartoon. The girl agrees to tell him everything as thanks for buying her lunch. She declares that magical girls are, in fact, the saviors of the earth. A vision shows young girls gathered by a master to fight using the planet's energy. The battle against a giant monster was brutal, and many of her comrades were sacrificed. She asks if he knows the earth would have been destroyed 10 years ago without them. Suhai looks at her with utter disbelief, asking if she needs a doctor. As they get out of the car, she asks if he doesn't believe her. He tells her the premise is broken, but she admits the explanation is complicated. He explodes in frustration, yelling that none of this makes any sense. A man in a suit identifies the girl as the one who fought a monster 10 years ago. The girl gives a slight, knowing smile as she sips her drink. Bakui angrily spits out the fact that magical girls don't age. The girl simply says, "That's enough," ending the conversation. She wonders why he's so angry when she just told him the truth. He complains that she uses a strange and annoying power on him. A vision shows magical stars swirling around his body, affecting him. He looks at his hand, wondering what is happening to his body. He sighs, deciding to get on with the job at hand first. In the distance, a group of 3 shady men loiter in an alley. Bakui identifies the men as the pushers they are here to deal with. The girl remarks that the drug trade seems to be a side business for them. Bakui explains that they are here to deal with these encroaching thugs. The girl shows him a social media post advertising drugs with innocuous hashtags. She asks if he lured them out by pretending to be a customer. He dismissively says that something like this is nothing to him. His expression hardens as he declares all pushers must be purged. The girl's star-shaped eyes gleam in agreement with his sentiment. She smiles faintly and says that she agrees with him. She announces she's going ahead, ignoring Bakui's protest to wait. He curses under his breath, calling her a damn brat for rushing ahead. She hums a cheerful tune as she approaches the unsuspecting thugs. The 3 men watch as the young girl walks toward them. In one fluid motion, she flings the contents of her cup. The cold liquid splashes directly into the face of the central thug. The thugs stare in disbelief, wondering what this woman's deal is. The drenched man's companions ask where the girl even came from. The man's face twists in rage as he glares past her. Bakui, watching from a distance, is shocked by the turn of events. The thug points an accusatory finger at Bakui, blaming him for the splash. Bakui frantically tries to explain that it wasn't him. The enraged thug screams that there's no one else it could have been. Bakui clicks his tongue in frustration as the man grabs his collar. The thug's fist connects hard with Bakui's jaw in a wide panel. The thug grabs Bakui's jacket, his grip tightening with rage. He screams at Bakui to listen to him, refusing to let go. With a final roar, he throws Bakui across the narrow alleyway. The other thugs watch in surprise as Bakui is sent flying. They wonder how he could be taken down with just one punch. From her perch on a railing, the girl points out that she's right there. Bakui curses her, calling her a junkie and a damn sweet brat. The girl wonders if the dreadlock thug is the only one he can't see. Bakui recalls another time being splashed with water, adding to his confusion. He curses, trying to figure out what is happening to him. A large muscular man with a snake tattoo appears before him. He delivers a brutal punch to Bakui's face, sending him reeling. A tooth flies from Bakui's mouth, hitting the ground with a splash. The snake-tattooed man sneers, asking who Bakui thinks he's messing with. Bakui, wiping his mouth, asks if the man knows who he is. A muscular man and his 2 associates smile, the leader explaining his earnest intentions. From the shadows, Bakui states his policy of crushing anyone who underestimates him. A young girl, Hiragi, sits smiling, musing that the result is simply too painful. Bakui's face contorts in a flash of pure rage, wanting to destroy everything. The muscular man looks confused, wondering what his opponent is muttering about. A fist connects with the muscular man's jaw in a brutal, violent impact. The sheer force of the blow sends the man's body flying backward. Crouching over his fallen foe, Bakui mockingly asks if he's out of breath already. He looks to the 2 remaining men, deciding he should enjoy what comes next. Bakui's expression shifts to surprise as a glowing star-tipped wand appears before him. He lets out a silent, horrified scream at the impossible magical object. The wand is held by Hiragi, now seated calmly on a playground spring rider. She explains her rewind magic, which makes Bakui immortal as long as she's near. Bakui glares at her, his face a mask of disbelief and simmering anger. His hand, moving against his will, grabs the downed thug by the hair. He screams at Hiragi for remodeling his body as it executes a takedown. One thug watches in horror as Bakui effortlessly throws another man through the air. They recognize him as Bakui of Tunangumi, a legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu master. Bakui turns his attention toward the last 2 terrified men standing. He screams that he's being fed nonsense as his body continues to fight. The scene shifts to a quiet residential neighborhood with a few buildings. On the ground lie the scattered, unconscious bodies of the three defeated thugs. Hiragi comments on his gag-like strength, concluding he must be a Yakuza. Standing over a defeated man, Bakui demands that she answer his questions. She looks at him with her unique star-shaped eyes, asking why he can see her. Her gaze is calm and knowing as she addresses him by his name, Bakui. She asks him if he remembers a certain event from 10 years ago. Pointing to a ruined cityscape, she brings up the Shinjuku skyscraper collapse. Inside a car, Bakui recalls hearing about the incident on the news as a child. Hiragi holds up a marshmallow, confirming that he doesn't remember the truth. He stares back at her, completely bewildered by her strange statement. She reveals the collapse was actually caused by a battle with a giant monster. The world's logic, she continues, rewrote all memories related to the magical girl. After her master left for another star, the self-correcting mechanism remained. A brief image shows a cute star-shaped mascot creature. A man in a suit appears as she explains magical girls are like ghosts to the world. She illustrates her point, suggesting that if she were to kill the man, the fact of his death would simply be rewritten into an unfortunate accident. Bakui, sweating, tells her to wait as he processes this new impossible information. He asks why the man with dreadlocks was able to recognize her. The suited man explains only those addicted to magic's remnants can see her. Hiragi adds that people she casts her magic on are also able to see her. Bakui cynically remarks how convenient it must be to be invisible. She agrees, noting he could do bad things without anyone knowing. She repeats his word back to him with a slight smile. Convenient? She asks if he truly thinks so, showing the pain of her lonely, unrecognized existence. She questions if her cruel fate is fair, considering she saved the world. A grim realization dawns on Bakui's face regarding the manufacturers. Hiragi declares they are turning the world to hell so they won't be forgotten. Bakui's eye narrows with a flicker of dark understanding. She vows that she will stop them, using any means necessary. The scene changes to a tense, rundown office corridor. A young Yakuza Seiya expresses his fury about starting a war with the Togekai. His associate, Tetsu, complains to their boss, who coldly tells him he knows nothing. Seiya accuses his boss of not understanding the organization's precarious position. The boss tells Tetsu not to worry, just to focus on not angering the magical girl. He presses a button on a grimy intercom panel next to a heavy door. A cheerful voice from the speaker announces that the lock is open. Seiya and Tetsu look nervous and apprehensive as they prepare to enter. The heavy steel door creaks open into a dark, foreboding room. A voice greets them from the darkness as they spot a head on the floor. A close-up reveals the head is horrifically mutilated, its eyes gouged out. Tetsu screams in pure terror, while the boss calmly tells him to pick it up. A man is crucified on a stand, decorated with ribbons as a girl paints his face. Their boss, Akoyanagi, admires the novel and deeply disturbing creation. The girl, Mel, hops off her ladder, praising Akoyanagi's discerning taste. Licking a lollipop, she asks if the next subject for her art has been chosen. Akoyanagi presents photos of Seiya and Tetsu, ordering them to be made into art. A title card appears, Magical Girl and the Mahjong War, Artist. The story moves to the entrance of an indoor golf bar. A close-up shows a golf club about to connect with a ball. A Yakuza boss executes a perfect swing as his underlings praise him effusively. The men continue to applaud, marveling at the boss's nice shot. He dismisses their praise, stating it was just some good exercise. His expression turns serious as he sits down to address his men. Sipping a drink, he asks them if they know about the killer called the Artist. He recounts police collecting numerous balloons from a park on May 9th. He explains they found the upper half of a missing narcotics officer inside. He also mentions a journalist whose dismembered body was mailed in a toy box. His men, including a dark-haired man named Sumeragi, are visibly shocked. The boss asks Sumeragi, the newcomer, if he's scared of this madman. Sumeragi bristles at the condescending tone, telling his boss not to joke. Hiragi suddenly appears on the driving range, holding a golf putter. Disguised in a hoodie, she scolds Sumeragi, calling him a damn brat. The other men watch, wondering why Sumeragi is just standing there. She reminds him that Togekai can't deal candy, but her magical girl form is invisible. Sumeragi explodes in rage, screaming that he's trying to maintain his fantasy cover. The boss grips his glass, his expression hardening with grim understanding. Lighting a cigarette, he mutters that the killer demon has finally crossed a line. He sternly warns Sumeragi to keep this strange incident a secret. He flashes back to finding a large gift-wrapped box in a garbage area he owns. He asks his men what they think was inside the mysterious box. He admits that at the time, he himself had no idea what to expect. Taking a long drag from his cigarette, he recalls the grim discovery. He reveals that the box contains several severed heads. The heads of his own men had been hideously decorated with glitter and teddy bears. Sumeragi and the other men listen, their faces pale with shock and horror. The boss grimly concludes that the Mahjong War has already begun. He speculates that the artist is working for a rival organization. He warns his men to be careful as a crazed killer is lurking in Tokyo. Under the night sky, a voice urgently calls out for a man named Sumeragi. A young woman in a cap follows him down a dark alley, asking him to wait. Sumeragi, with his back to her, lets out a weary and frustrated sigh. Grabbing his jacket, she insists they must find the artist and get their revenge. She questions if this was an order, while he dismisses their boss's words as idle chatter. Cheekily, she clarifies their true goal is to gain credibility by starting a war. His foot taps impatiently on the grimy pavement, a sign of his growing frustration. She points to a guarded building, asking if he is familiar with Black Mamba. Connecting the dots, she concludes the dead infiltrator was likely from their organization. She ponders the situation, admitting that this has become a very troublesome predicament. He angrily retorts that a clumsy approach will only put their enemy on high alert. Clenching his fist, he reluctantly agrees to cooperate with her dangerous plan. Grabbing his hair in frustration, he asks what she wants him to do. She outlines the plan. She will infiltrate while he directs her via a wireless earpiece. He looks at his phone, questioning the 100-meter communication range she specified. She reassures him it's fine, as the junkies there won't recognize his face. She confidently strides past two imposing guards, certain they cannot see her. Descending into the club, she passes by couples and partygoers in the dim lighting. Inside, a sea of bodies dances wildly under the bright, flashing strobe lights. From the car, Sumeragi begins a sound check into his communication device. Within the loud club, the girl confirms that she can hear his voice clearly. In the parking lot, he curses the situation before confirming communication is stable. He instructs her to find the sellers who are marked with a viper tattoo. He warns her to proceed with caution, as their targets are deeply paranoid. The girl quickly spots her target, a man with a distinctive snake tattoo. Throwing her hands up, she loudly announces that she's found a real Black Mamba member. In the car, Sumeragi explodes in rage, questioning what the idiot thinks she's doing. The two dealers, one with a prominent afro, eye her with suspicious smiles. One of the dealers chides her, saying that a minor shouldn't be in such a place. He holds out a small candy-like lozenge, asking if she came to buy it. Ignoring Sumeragi's frantic warnings, she innocently asks how much one costs. The dealer gives a thumbs up, suggesting they go somewhere quieter to talk business. He puts his arm around her, telling her to relax as she complains he's too loud. Her expression turns predatory as she declares she's actually quite good at interrogating sellers. The scene cuts to a daytime view of the empty parking lot where Sumeragi waits. Inside the car, Sumeragi clutches his head, utterly speechless with frustration. He seethes with anger, calling the girl who ignored all his orders an idiot. He furiously crushes a coffee can in his hand, cursing that she refuses to listen. A voice from the back seat asks if he has any sense, noting that she is a monster. A girl with bunny ear accessories grins at him from the back seat of the car. Sumeragi's eyes widen in shock as he glances from the back seat to the front. A different girl with twin tails now sits in the passenger seat, complaining of the smell. His face contorts in a mask of pure, wide-eyed shock and utter confusion. The girl Mel leans in, cheerfully asking for his name and favorite food. He angrily demands to know what on earth she thinks she is doing. She casually produces a pistol, sweetly saying it's only fair she gets to know him. Her smile turns sinister as she declares he will now become material for her art. With a determined grip, he grabs the barrel of the gun she is holding. Roaring in fury, he unleashes a swirling power that begins to tear the car apart. The vehicle explodes in a violent burst of dark, destructive magical energy. His shoe lies alone amidst the smoldering wreckage of the destroyed car. Sumeragi is on the ground, clutching his arm, which is covered in a dark substance. Mel is perched calmly atop the grotesquely twisted car, looking down at him. She looks at him with mild curiosity, asking if he is all right after the blast. His clothes torn, he glares back, retorting that something like this won't kill him. Mel asks with a sweet, disarming smile if he is even human. He realizes with dread that she is a new type of magical girl he has never seen. A flash of insight hits him as he finally understands who she must be. He stands declaring with grim certainty that she is the infamous artist. Mel giggles, amused that he came all this way just to be killed by her. She raises her heart-tipped wand, its end glowing as she commands him to die. He realizes with a flash of panic that he cannot escape the impending attack. A torrent of black crystalline spikes erupts from the ground, engulfing him completely. His eye widens in pure terror as the overwhelming attack closes in. Elsewhere, the first girl reports that the smartphone's signal is being jammed. Caught in the blast, Sumeragi grits his teeth, deciding he has no choice but to gamble. He leaps desperately through the deadly storm of crystalline spikes. Mel pauses her attack, looking over her shoulder with a hint of curiosity. She looks down toward the ground with wide, utterly surprised eyes. Multiple figures of Sumeragi suddenly burst from the point of impact. Mel looks down from the wreckage, seemingly unimpressed by his survival. She taunts him with a cruel smile, asking if he isn't afraid of dying. The dark magical energy continues to tear at one of his duplicates. She watches with a cold smile as he is seemingly ripped apart by her attack. A wicked, delighted gleam enters her eye as she enjoys the violent spectacle. The real Sumeragi lands heavily as his duplicates absorb the brunt of the attack. Mel's smug expression completely shatters into one of pure, wide-eyed shock. She watches as his mangled body is thrown violently through the air. The real Sumeragi lands on the pavement, muttering that it went just as he thought. His hand glows with power as he reveals his magic's 100-meter effective radius. He smirks, declaring that relying on unknown magic is a real pain. He vows to settle things now, telling the monster to prepare herself for defeat. A confident, almost arrogant smirk plays on his lips as he readies himself. Mel muses aloud, now understanding that he is using rewind magic. She grins, realizing his power must be connected to that damn girl. He glares back, demanding that she explain everything to him in detail. In a different scene, a punk offers candy, saying nothing starts without it. Two women mock the idea of getting caught, daring the police to come after them. The girl in the cap confronts a group, asking why they are causing trouble. A man's face twists into a grotesque mask of drug-fueled, ecstatic horror. In a white void, a dealer asks if it's so wrong to just want to sell candy. The dealer looks around in terror, wondering where he is and what is happening. He screams that this isn't what he imagined, calling the girl a monster. She holds her wand to his face, calling him both ignorant and careless. She explains that too much blood is spilled senselessly for their junkie enterprise. She asks if he became a dealer without knowing he was sullying the world. She stabs the terrified dealer in the chest with her lollipop-like wand. His body begins to distort and glitch as she commands him to rewind. His face is horrifically twisted and broken by the powerful magical effect. She calmly explains she is just returning the crushed glass of his being to its original state. A dark, viscous splatter covers a clean surface, the result of a violent encounter. With a bright smile, a young woman in a cap asks for information on a killer. A beaten man screams that the artist was the woman with the vice leader, Saya. He yells that he knows nothing more, complaining about her terrible personality and strange clothes. She gives his intel a poor score and cheerfully demands to know the exact location. Suddenly, her magical auto skill seems to activate, warning her of imminent danger. Realizing her ally Kagura'i is in combat, she sprints down a corridor to his aid. She mentally urges him to hold on and survive until she can arrive as backup. Elsewhere, a horrifically mangled Kagura'i is held together by a strange black substance. His opponent, Mel, taunts him to regenerate, asking if he got his magic from the zombie girl. Kagura'i lets out a pained groan, his body trembling as he fights the binding magic. With tremendous effort, he begins to dig his own fingers deep into his chest. He lets out an agonized scream as he struggles to remove something from his body. His bloodied hand closes around a glowing, crystalline object embedded in his flesh. He triumphantly rips the crystal free, and the black substance begins to peel away. With a furious glare, he prepares to throw the object at his enemy. He hurls the crystal-like projectile, roaring at her to take it back. Mel watches the incoming attack with a look of pure, weary annoyance. The projectile, now a chaotic mass of dark energy, hurtles directly towards her. She complains that her big brother shouldn't have dared to fight back against her. Her face twists into an angry pout as she declares he's really starting to anger her. Kagura'i drops a spent cigarette, his resolve hardening for the next stage of the battle. He turns to face his opponent, telling the brat to prepare herself for what's next. Exhaling a breath, his focus sharpens into a deadly determined point. He thinks to himself that she shouldn't expect mercy or any god to save her. A memory flashes of him finally finding a clue, a hard-won lead on the manufacturer. He cracks his knuckles, determined to beat the information he needs out of her. Another girl, Ririsa, watches the fight from a distance with a pouting expression. She wonders aloud if her opponent knows the weakness of the zombie girl's magic. Raising her wand, a wicked grin spreads across her face as she prepares an attack. Her eye glows with a heart shape as she wonders what would happen if he were killed instantly. She questions aloud if he could still revive if his brain were immediately destroyed. With a gleeful expression, she decides it's time to test her gruesome theory. Kagura'i narrowly evades a devastating kick that completely shatters the ground beneath him. His mind races with the knowledge that a single hit to his head or heart will be fatal. He reminds himself that simple, repetitive movements will be easily read by his foe. He screams at himself to use his head and think his way out of the deadly situation. His foot plants firmly on the ground as he forces himself to think, think, think. His face contorts in a desperate snarl, vowing not to stop thinking if he wants to live. From atop a defeated monster, Rarisa watches the ongoing battle with clear disdain. She whines in frustration that he keeps dodging everything, calling his tenacity creepy. She complains to her unseen brother that she wants to end this with some avant-garde art. Her attention shifts as she begins to address someone named Seiya with annoyance. She holds a profile sheet for Kagura'i, angered that he's just a low-priority mob character. She throws a tantrum, yelling that the old man should just do his job and get beaten. Crumpling the paper, she dismisses the issue with a frustrated sigh of whatever. Her demeanor changes as she condescendingly tells Kagura'i he has done well for a human. She smirks, noting he's all worn out now, and identifies him as Hoshina's lapdog. Kagura'i's eyes widen, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage and defiance. He roars a single command that seems to warp the fabric of reality itself. Rewind! In a memory, Kagura'i and a young boy are being encased in a concrete-like substance. The memory shifts, showing Kagura'i staring at his hand, still covered in the konkuri. The solid substance on his hand suddenly reverts back to its original liquid state. A short-haired girl, Mel, approaches, informing him that she's kept him waiting. Mel cheerfully praises him for enduring the entire terrifying ordeal all by himself. Kagura'i's face contorts with anger as he processes her patronizing words. He whirls on her, pointing an accusatory finger and angrily calling her a brat. He furiously demands to know why she only gave him a cryptic hint about the magic's range. Another girl, Ririsa, explains that if he had been careless, he would have been killed instantly. She clarifies that they were provoking an enemy from an entirely different dimension. Ririsa's confident, almost smug expression is shown after that past battle. She taunts her rival, Hoshina, asking if she's still alive and if she's ashamed of it. Hoshina smiles, saying it's been a while, and she's glad Mel hasn't changed. Rarisa snarls that the others have not forgiven Hoshina and will kill her on sight. Hoshina looks on with concern, noting the heavy and unreasonable burden placed on Mel. Rarisa explodes with rage, declaring she hates Hoshina's personality, which is why she's ostracized. She sees that she won't be swayed by tears or begging, not with her group's secrets at stake. Holding her wand, she vows to crush the bitch and get the information she needs. Hoshina holds her own wand, stating she will get all the information on the manufacturer. The scene returns to the present, with Kagura'i and a boy watching Ririsa over a defeated foe. The boy points out that Ririsa's phone is ringing, snapping her out of her thoughts. Kagura'i is annoyed by the interruption, while Hoshina remains placid and observant. The boy calmly tells Ririsa that her phone is ringing very loudly. Ririsa answers angrily, yelling at Seiya that she and Mel are currently busy. A car drives down a brightly lit city street at night, moving toward its destination. In the car, Seiya tells Mel that time is up and she must proceed to the next site. On the phone, Ririsa complains that she doesn't care about his half-assed request. Seiya lets out a weary sigh from the driver's seat, his patience clearly wearing thin. He coolly informs her that it is not he who is asking her to comply with the order. A vision shows a Grim Reaper figure, stating this is a request from Santa Caramello. Ririsa's expression shifts, realizing that their compliance would be a great help. The skeletal face of Santa Caramello stares out, its presence commanding absolute obedience. Hoshina's eye reflects a star as she utters the ominous name Santa Caramello. Hoshina asks Rarisa if that is the official name of the manufacturer. Rarisa looks away, muttering that she doesn't know and that listening is creepy. Announcing she's busy, Rarisa declares she's heading home and begins to walk away. Amidst ambulance sirens, Kagura'i asks if they should just torture someone for information. Hoshina smiles enigmatically, her face obscured, and agrees with his assessment. A car is parked on a city street as someone inside curses in frustration. Inside the car, Kagura'i yells, not understanding why they must fight the Subjugation Association. Seiya dismisses his outburst while Tetsu claims he has no such ambitions. Seiya calls Tetsu a monster employee for complaining about his middle management duties. Tetsu shoots back, calling Seiya out for his own questionable behavior. Tetsu clenches his fist, asking Seiya if he feels humiliated by their current situation. He rants that Seiya, the founder of Black Mamba, has been reduced to a mere errand boy. Seiya remains impassive, while Tetsu sweats with frustration and barely controlled anger. In the back seat, Ririsa complains that being bound by these people is impossible. Tetsu turns from the driver's seat to greet Mel, who sits beside Ririsa. Ririsa snaps at him for the sudden summons, dismissively calling him a mob character. Tetsu flinches in confusion as a glowing cross-shaped heart appears on the headrest next to him. A man screams in agony as sharp crystals violently erupt from his chest. A two-toned haired girl gleefully remarks that sudden braking is a death sentence. From the back seat, a dark-haired woman sighs, annoyed by her companion's mood. Another passenger tells the driver to be quiet and focus on the next job. The scene shifts to a deserted city playground under the glow of midnight lights. A girl with short, light hair happily exclaims that her food is delicious. She closes her eyes in bliss, savoring the pleasant texture of her meal. The food is described as an exquisite violence of milk and oil. She notes the surprising compatibility of Zequan peppercorns with the dish. Atop a slide, she tells the man below that sweets are a magical girl's only pleasure. She offers him some fried ice, asking if he wants some since he likes it. The man scoffs, questioning how she could eat such a ridiculous dish. He wonders how she can eat after their fight, questioning his own sanity. She explains that using magic creates a craving for sugar, the origin of candy. He finds her muttering too loud and strange for someone talking to themselves. He wonders if she's high on candy or if someone else is there. A well-dressed man walks forward, commenting on his own mysteriously unseen presence. He is identified as Sakisaka Koichi, a narcotics control department section chief. Kagura'i stares in shock, recognizing the man's name with a gasp. Sakisaka asks why Kagura'i called him out, then offers the girl a gift. The girl's eyes sparkle as she reveals her alliance with Sakisaka. A flashback shows a terrified Yajima leaked information, allowing Sakisaka to control events. Kagura'i sweats, realizing the depth of the deception he was caught in. He realizes the magical girl was never just a candy addict he couldn't see. Sakisaka smiles, his plan having unfolded perfectly. He states that narcotics officers need pharmaceutical knowledge, though Kagura'i is an exception. He notes that such knowledge is useless against candy, suggesting Kagura'i try it himself. Kagura'i is furious at the suggestion, thinking Sakisaka is insane. Sakisaka describes the mild initial withdrawal symptoms, a trap for the unwary. This suffering, he explains, continues until the next dose is taken. He leans in, stating that candy is a massive malice, a fact Kagura'i should know. Kagura'i realizes that to see the magical girl, he must have taken a significant dose. He resolves to end this nightmare, using any means necessary to achieve his goal. Sakisaka recalls telling Kagura'i that his mind would be devoured. He looks at Kagura'i, asking if he has the same resolve. Kagura'i accepts his new identity, asking if he is now Investigator Sumeragi. Sakisaka smoothly suggests they can now get down to business. He presents Kagura'i with an ornate key, a strange sound accompanying the gesture. The top of the key shatters, revealing a hidden compartment. He pulls out a sealed envelope, the complete investigation report on the manufacturer. He explains the information is top secret, known only by a select few. Kagura'i reads the report, his face contorting in utter shock. He sweats profusely, struggling to process the information he is reading. He gasps, unable to believe what the documents reveal. The girl confirms the information is true, asking if he is surprised. She reveals the Seishokai is now procuring candy through a new, independent route. This act has angered the manufacturer, making the Seishokai their primary target. On a fishing boat, a YAKUZA member asks his boss where they are heading. The boss gruffly tells him to be quiet and focus on their disguise. He mutters to himself that he doesn't know the higher-ups' plans either. A crewmate calls out to the boss, having spotted something in the water. He points out a strange floating object and asks the boss for instructions. The boss yells at his men to hurry up and retrieve the package. Divers leap into the dark, churning sea to begin the recovery. Working quickly, the divers secure a large wooden crate floating beneath the surface. They signal to the boss on deck that the package is ready to be lifted. The boss shouts for everyone to stand clear as he begins hoisting the cargo. The heavy crate is slowly lifted from the water onto the boat's deck. The winch groans under the significant weight of the retrieved package. The large wooden crate is now suspended over the deck, ready to be lowered. A close-up reveals the words "lollipop candy" stenciled on the crate's side. Back in the park, Kagura'i asks if candy is just infused magical girl magic. He desperately asks who else besides the manufacturer could possibly make such a thing. Hoshina smiles, her eyes hidden in shadow, enjoying his confusion. With a sweet, chilling smile, she confirms his unspoken fear about her identity. She begins to sketch in the dirt, explaining that she created the candy. Her drawing illustrates the vast supply network she built, spanning the globe. She poses a question. What if a client like the Seishokai betrayed her? What if they sourced their candy from an unknown third party? On the boat, the YAKUZA members begin to inspect their illicit cargo. A sudden bright flash erupts from the boat's cabin. The magical girl explains that such a betrayal will not be tolerated. Black Mamba declares that any betrayal will trigger a massive retaliatory attack. Kagura'i asks if this means the magical girls will also join the fight. He furiously demands to know if they orchestrated this smuggling just to provoke a war. Sakasaka compares the drug epidemic to a plague that requires eradicating the source. He tells Kagura'i that he, of all people, should understand this grim necessity. Hoshina explains that this is retribution. They won't simply stand by and watch. Their goal is to lure another, darker magical girl out into the open. With Kagura'i and Sakisaka, she declares that they started the drug war. Kagura'i states grimly that he pulled the trigger on this drug war. A two-toned haired girl hums a tune, a small cross earring visible. Two YAKUZA men look on with unease and disgust. The girl stands before monstrous zombies, ready to face the manufacturer. She explains they started this war, but reassures Kagura'i it's okay. Hoshina claims with a bright smile that everything she does is for love and peace. Kagura'i looks on, his face a mask of grim determination. He asks if this will truly eradicate candy from the world. Hoshina recalls a dying magical girl, bloody and holding an apple-like object. The dying girl began to instruct Hoshina on what to do if she took her place. Hoshina remembers her predecessor's unfinished words, her expression somber. She places a hand on her chest, pleading with Kagura'i to trust her. She promises to ultimately dispose of all the candy she has created. Sakasaka steps in, assuring Kagura'i that Hoshina is still sane. Kagura'i sweats, his face a mask of inner conflict and doubt. Sakasaka asks if Kagura'i's conscience can bear the burden of starting a war. He urges Kagura'i to remember the horrific situation in North and Central America. A montage shows the grim reality of the drug crisis and cartel violence. The narration lists horrors like child assassins and government-sanctioned massacres. Sakasaka concludes that this hell is mass-produced behind the facade of the First World. In a nightclub, a man questions the wisdom of legalizing the drug candy. An internal thought reveals deep disgust, equating junkies with cartel-affiliated, empty-headed killers. A man in a sharp suit reveals his cold philosophy of sacrificing criminals for good people. He turns to his companion, Bakui, asking if his ruthless statement was out of line. With a dismissive smile, the white-haired man tells Bakui to forget what was said. Bakui reflects that his companion didn't need to say anything more. The point was made. His face hardening with resolve, Bakui admits to himself that he feels the exact same way. Their car approaches the imposing regional headquarters of a powerful Kanto organization. At the entrance, rows of men in suits bow deeply as vehicles arrive. The polished shoes of a high-ranking member step out onto the pavement. A formidable YAKUZA boss is greeted with respectful shouts and bows from his subordinates. Another powerful boss, wearing sunglasses, receives the same deferential treatment from his crew. A man in a fedora is also greeted with deep bows of respect. A different YAKUZA member yawns as his car door is opened for him. The driver, Umabuchi, glares with animosity at his passenger, Bakui. A slick-looking YAKUZA dismissively explains that their small tertiary group can't just bring anyone. He orders Bakui and his associates to wait in the parking lot. Bakui sweats, realizing he's at the heart of the strongest syndicate in Kanto. A man named Akoyanagi walks toward the entrance, vowing to crush society's enemies. Inside, Akoyanagi is questioned about the reason for the sudden emergency meeting. The furious questioner is revealed to be Kosei Tsuyoshi, the organization's Wakugashira. Akoyanagi offers a smooth greeting, reminding Kosei this is the YAKUZA headquarters. An enraged Kosei grabs him, warning him not to use his name so flippantly. Akoyanagi maintains a cool, insolent smirk despite the physical threat. He offers a hollow apology, suggesting he could just go to the chairman instead. Kose lets out a frustrated click of his tongue, his anger barely contained. A woman in a business suit walks past them toward the conference room. At a large table, she opens a laptop, preparing for the meeting. She announces to the assembled men that it is time to begin. The chairman, Kake Ishin, joins via audio only, eager to start. The men discuss the recent murder of 9 members of an affiliated family. The victims were arranged fantastically, the work of a killer known as the artist. The theme of the grotesque display is identified as being psychedelic in nature. The masterminds behind the attack are revealed to be the rival Black Mamba group. Akoyanagi dismisses any questions about their motives, stating the reasons no longer matter. His eyes glowing white, he issues a terrifying command to begin the war immediately. The other executives are stunned into silence by his sudden declaration of war. Akoyanagi lays out the ultimate objective, the assassination of the enemy's core leadership. He orders the abduction and torture of the enemy's families to lure them out. He proposes a public spectacle of hanging hostages to serve as a grim warning. Such sentimentality as humanity, he declares, is a liability they cannot afford. Kozi, now bound to a chair, realizes Akoyanagi has staged a coup. The other YAKUZA members look on, sweating with fear and shock. A thought flashes. This man is completely insane. The chairman's voice confirms he has sanctioned Akoyanagi's brutal takeover. The organization will now follow the YAKUZA code to its most logical, violent end. Akoyanagi prepares to brief the remaining men on the details of his operation. With a confident smile, he acknowledges that he has received his orders. Outside, Bakui takes a long drag from his cigarette, waiting. A young woman with short hair asks him what evil things were discussed inside. Bakui curtly tells her it's a decoy mission, a distraction. He explains the real assassinations will happen after the war with the manufacturers. He instructs the girl to infiltrate the enemy's ranks without being seen. The girl scoffs, annoyed that the men she's watching don't understand the situation. She appears behind them, asking if they truly grasp what's happening. The men wonder if they should break the rules and sell candy. Bakui asks what she means by her sudden appearance and cryptic warning. She explains that police cannot intervene in this drug war without causing mass casualties. The enemy operates with the ruthless logic of a South American cartel. They would not hesitate to use terrorism to protect their drug trade. Therefore, she declares, this is a conflict that must be contained. The war must remain a bloody affair between YAKUZA and other criminals. Their mission is to infiltrate and ensure only the bad guys die efficiently. They must control this drug war from the inside, acting as a scalpel. This, she concludes, is Bakui's role, asking if he can handle it. Bakui exhales smoke, knowing he has no other choice but to proceed. Elsewhere, Bakui is undercover, snapped out of a daze by a fellow YAKUZA. The man eyes him suspiciously, asking if he's planning on ratting them out. Bakui quickly apologizes, feigning compliance and trying to de-escalate the situation. The YAKUZA claps him on the shoulder, telling him to stop being a punk. He tells Bakui that they need to get along and act as brothers. Akoyanagi appears, cheerfully suggesting they all go strawberry picking. The bizarre proposal leaves Bakui and the other YAKUZA utterly bewildered. The girl watches from a distance as they interact, her focus sharp. Her unique star-shaped pupils glint with determination as she observes. The other YAKUZA asks what Akoyanagi is talking about, while Bakui is stunned. The girl calls out quietly to Bakui, getting his attention. From behind a pillar, she tosses him a GPS tracker with a listening device. She tells him to be careful, as she will be following close behind. Bakui subtly catches the device, acknowledging her signal without a word. The YAKUZA driver barks at Bakui, telling him to hurry up and drive. Bakui snaps to attention, responding with a quick "yes" as the girl watches. She smiles to herself, thinking it's time to see what he's made of. A title card shows their convoy heading down a highway towards a dark tunnel. In the car, Akoyanagi lets out a sigh of annoyance. He tells the men in the front they are brothers under the same emblem. The driver, Umabuchi, sarcastically asks Bakui when he became so important. Umabuchi grabs Bakui, angrily asking what he's staring at. He screams at Bakui to hurry up and earn the boss's trust. Umabuchi fumes, thinking of all the hard work he's put in to get here. A memory shows him standing over beaten thugs, a legend of the backstreets. He glares at Bakui, seeing him as nothing more than an annoying punk. He vows to himself that he will eventually kill this cocky brat. Bakui retorts with a cold threat, promising to kill Umabuchi for his smell alone. In the backseat, Akoyanagi calmly lights a cigarette, ignoring the hostility. A slight, knowing smile plays on his lips as he observes the tension. Their car travels through a scenic, mountainous region under a clear sky. The vehicle pulls up to a small, unassuming roadside stand. Banners decorated with cute drawings of strawberries flap in the wind. As the men get out of the car, Bakui announces their arrival. 3 men stand outside a series of greenhouses, one complaining about his aching back. He expresses his doubt that this is a proper base for their war with Black Mamba. A sudden, sharp intake of breath reveals his complete and utter shock. The view shifts to reveal rows of lush, perfectly ripe strawberries. Inside, Bakui watches in astonishment as muscular YAKUZA members diligently pick the fruit. He stares in disbelief, questioning if this is actually a real strawberry farm. Their leader explains that legitimate businesses are now necessary to support the YAKUZA. With a confident smile, he offers Bakui one of their large, sweet specialty strawberries. Bakue eats the fruit, his face twisting in disgust while he claims it's delicious. An image of Earth surrounded by strawberries illustrates their ambition for a global market. As they walk away, the boss declares their plan for overseas expansion. He opens a nearby door, smiling as he speaks of delivering happiness to the world. Now in a grim basement, the boss stands over a steel hatch, asking what someone thinks. The heavy hatch slams shut with a loud final clang. Elsewhere, a young woman with short hair peers intently through a pair of binoculars. From a nearby hill, she surveys the farm below, thinking it looks suspicious. Her unique star-shaped pupils narrow as she intuits there's more to this place. She finds the location too dangerous to approach, deciding to leave the infiltration to another. Despite the danger, she admits to herself that she's suddenly craving strawberries. A voice behind her suddenly shouts in frustration about being completely lost. She turns startled to see a young man with long, two-toned hair asking who she is. Carrying a guitar case, he yells in agitation, wondering aloud where he is. The girl, recovering from her surprise, thinks that his question is her line. She wonders if this person is the infamous candy addict she's heard about. The man, Kirishima, explains he worked at a nearby farm but forgot the location. Pointing toward the greenhouses, the girl asks if that is the place he means. He complains that he always gets turned around and his phone's map is useless. As he walks away, she conceals a small, star-tipped wand behind her back. Her expression turns serious and knowing as she watches him leave. Her thoughts reveal she knows the men below are a trained corps for a drug war. She explains to Kirishima that today is the entrance exam for new recruits. His demeanor shifts to a sly grin as he reveals he is a senior member. An open hatch leads underground as his voice anticipates the coming spectacle. Three men descend a dark, oppressive concrete staircase into the unknown. One man asks where they are, but his companion tersely tells him to be quiet. Their leader reassures them with a smirk that they will find out soon enough. As they continue down, one of the men senses something is wrong. He realizes they are in a secret passage located beneath one of the greenhouses. He grimly acknowledges that this is a classic YAKUZA secret society setup. Their leader presses a button, and a massive steel door slams shut behind them. The leader's eyes widen in pure shock as he realizes they are trapped. They emerge into a brightly lit, brutal training facility filled with muscular men. An instructor holding a handgun yells at the newcomers, demanding to know who they are. One of the trapped men realizes with horror that this is a full-blown military operation. A lit cigarette smolders, the smoke curling up in the tense atmosphere. The boss explains that the romanticized YAKUZA image of helping the weak is a lie. He commands the newcomers to abandon their outdated, preconceived notions. He reveals this is his private army, benchmarked against elite forces like the SAS. These men, he states, are a different breed of warrior, unlike the police. A brief, violent image shows one of his men mercilessly beating a victim. The boss declares that he needs new soldiers, as amateurs are useless for the coming war. His gaze is cold and decisive as he announces this is the entrance exam. The two men stare in horror as he orders them to fight each other to the death. A rack of deadly weapons is displayed as he promises to welcome the lone survivor. Above ground, Kirishima checks his phone, noting that the exam has already started. Complaining about the delay, he closes an empty guitar case. His demeanor changes as he tells the girl he is now speaking to her. A close-up reveals his large, curved blade, freshly stained with dark blood. He menacingly addresses the girl as Passerby Shan, holding the bloody weapon. His reptilian eyes narrow as he demands to know who she really is. Below, the two condemned men, Bakui and Bato, stand facing each other. The boss watches them from the sidelines with a faint smirk, smoking a cigarette. Above, Kirishima notes that he can feel the girl's killing intent radiating towards him. He tells her not to worry, claiming with an unnerving calm that he isn't angry. He offers to slice her head off cleanly to end things without resentment. The girl's fear turns into a slight, chilling smile as she acknowledges her predicament. She brandishes her wand, declaring she sees no way out but to kill him. Her eyes gleam as she tells him he's the villain and shouldn't resent her in hell. A splash of blood marks the conflict's start, titled Blood In, Blood Out. A flashback begins, showing a young boy watching television in a messy room. He recalls learning how a new lion asserts dominance by killing the previous leader's cubs. An image of a powerful lion standing over a cub visualizes this instinctual dominance. The young boy, Bato, deeply empathized with this brutal law of nature. In middle school, he began his own reign of dominance over his peers. He succeeded in taking over gangs by savagely beating their leaders into submission. He followed the lion's way, beating the former leader half to death. He even socially destroyed his own corrupt father and took his woman. Scouted by the YAKUZA, his method of violent domination never changed. He reflects on how he has climbed his way up through this brutal world. A scene of a chaotic alleyway fight illustrates his violent path to power. He remembers noticing another fighter, Kirishima, and his South American blood. He had heard about the lively kid's existence for some time before their meeting. A confident, predatory smile spreads across his face as he remembers. In a concrete underpass, he spots a man walking ahead of a car. He calls out to the man, getting his attention. The man turns, demanding to know what he's looking at as Bato raises a bat. Bato strikes the man with the bat in a sudden, violent ambush. The man's associates pour out of a van, rushing to attack Bato. They swarm him, screaming for him to die, but he fights back ferociously. He had vowed to beat them half dead and deliver them to their families. Clutching his head, he roared that he would show them who the true boss is. A bloody smile is on his face as he fights with feral intensity. His opponent, Bakui, noticed that he was smiling during the brawl. The savage fight against overwhelming numbers continued until police sirens wailed. Bato realized that his opponent had refused to be dominated. He understood then that the entire fight had been a test. Now Bato asks Bakui if he understands the gravity of his own sin. He repeats the creed, "By blood you enter, by blood you leave." He explains the Mexican mafia's rule of killing to join, which their group has adopted. He pleads with his boss, asking if he is serious, but knows the time has come. An intense close-up on a man's eye reveals his eager anticipation. A memory recalls the strict YAKUZA rule forbidding the killing of comrades. A man named Mabuchi realizes he has official permission to kill his rival. A manic grin spreads across his face, having finally found his justification. Grabbed by the collar, Mabuchi expresses his gleeful excitement for the coming fight. His expression twists into pure shock as he is suddenly launched backward. His opponent, Bakui, looks on in surprise as he is sent flying. With a heavy thud, Mabuchi crashes hard onto the unforgiving ground. Dazed and confused, he struggles to understand what just happened to him. Bakui lunges forward again as his foe desperately pleads for him to wait. A heavy dumbbell connects with Bakui's face in a brutal, bone-crunching impact. The force of the blow sends him crashing violently into a nearby pile of tires. From the sidelines, the chairman calmly exhales a plume of cigarette smoke. He notes to his armed guards that he hasn't even given the signal to begin. A smug smile appears as he tells Bakui that his preemptive violence was correct. Bakui understands that the chairman desires a completely unhinged and degenerate fighter. Mabuchi clutches his head in a moment of panic, fearing this is the end. Another powerful fist lands squarely on his face, continuing the brutal assault. Screaming furiously, he pulls out a handgun and points it at his opponent. A bullet narrowly misses Bakui's face, grazing his cheek and drawing blood. The fresh, bloody wound on his cheek stings from the near-fatal shot. Bakui advances relentlessly on his now terrified, cowering opponent. Mabuchi warns Bakui not to underestimate him, his hand trembling around the gun. Losing all composure, he shrieks a promise to turn the punk into mincemeat. With a furious roar, Bakui charges forward, ignoring the gunman's threats. Mabuchi laughs madly, declaring he doesn't care about the rules against firearms. He fires again, proclaiming the tables have turned and demanding his foe behave. Ignoring the bullets, Bakui desperately dives towards a rack of heavy weights. His hand closes firmly around the cold, heavy iron of a dumbbell. Sweat beads on Mabuchi's face as he stares in utter disbelief. Bakui hefts the massive weight, his opponent questioning what he is seeing. A primal, earth-shaking roar erupts from deep within Bakui's chest. The gunman flinches back, his hands shaking as a whimper of fear escapes. His face twists in terror, calling his opponent a monster as the weapon descends. The chairman observes the brutal climax, a faint, satisfied smile on his face. The improvised club smashes into Mabuchi, sending his body flying through the air. His broken form lies crumpled on the ground, the fight finally over. Baki grabs his defeated foe by the hair, hoisting his head up. He snarls into the man's face, calling him a pathetic insect. Bakui declares that the difference between them is their sheer level of resolve. Mabuchi's terrified eyes reflect the horrifying truth of his opponent's conviction. He turns his attention to the chairman, who has just called out to him. The chairman calmly approaches, casually interrupting the brutal aftermath of the fight. As the guard fires his gun, the chairman notes that such actions are against the rules. The chairman critiques Mabuchi's finishing moves as weak and unimpressive. Bakui listens to the critique, quietly accepting the chairman's assessment. With a decisive look, the chairman declares that Bakui has passed the test. Battered and bloodied, he is officially congratulated on joining the organization. Standing over a pool of blood, he quietly accepts his new role. He is formally welcomed into the group, standing before the chairman and his men. The leader of Black Mamba theatrically welcomes him to his personal farm. One of the men questions if violence is a tool or needs justification. The chairman scoffs at such notions, calling them the useless logic of amateurs. He explains this is simply violence for the sake of violence itself. The chairman asks if he possesses the resolve to abandon his own humanity. Baki meets his gaze with absolute certainty, affirming that he is ready. The chairman smiles, acknowledging that the answer was already obvious to him. The scene shifts to a vibrant nightclub, with a crowd cheering wildly. A performer on stage energizes the crowd, telling them to go crazy. He preaches about overcoming divisions like race, religion, gender, and politics. An audience member comments to his friend on the performer's profound words. Two men in the crowd nod in agreement, feeling they were born to meet. He asks the crowd how they can end war and eliminate all discrimination. With a snap of his fingers, he declares that the answer is simple. The crowd roars with excitement as he presents them with candy. He proclaims that through candy and music, everyone can achieve true happiness. A close-up reveals the glowing, dripping candy resting on his pierced tongue. People's faces twist into grotesque masks of ecstasy as the drug takes hold. He explains that once enveloped in candy's euphoria, the will to fight disappears. Watching from above, Seiya crushes his glass in disgust, muttering that it's ridiculous. His associate sarcastically asks if this spectacle is what love and peace looks like. He then turns to Seiya, asking for his opinion on the disturbing scene. Seiya sees that the cult is just a gathering of worthless punks. His hand tightens as he blames a single man for this entire situation. A subordinate reports that an enemy has taken over Black Mamba with a magical girl army. The chairman, Saito Rakaru, turns to address a girl he calls Melchan. With a smile, he asks her to explain the theme of her latest artwork. The artwork is revealed, a tortured man displayed like a grotesque butterfly. The artist Mirka angrily asks if the message of her work isn't understood. A group of men in suits observes the grim display with varying reactions. Seiya's associate warns him to be quiet, asking if he has a death wish. Seiya remarks on the high degree of difficulty for such a peculiar death. He looks closer at the victim, realizing he recognizes the man. Yamano confirms the victim has been with their organization since the beginning. From a couch, the man in the fedora, Yamano, greets Seiya. A slight knowing smile plays on Yamano's lips as he speaks. He greets Seiya casually, as if they were old acquaintances meeting again. He explains the man is alive, merely paralyzed by a special high-purity candy. Yamano argues that such harsh examples are necessary to maintain organizational discipline. Seiya takes a seat, preparing to get down to the real business at hand. Lighting a cigarette, he asks for the true reason he was summoned here. Yamano's expression becomes serious as the conversation shifts to their primary objective. He confirms their objective is the assassination of the rival organization's leader. However, he reveals that an unexpected development has complicated their plans. Mirka addresses Seiya by his full name, Akishusuke, drawing his attention. She reveals their target has allied himself with the Hoshikusu magical girl. Seiya is visibly shocked, questioning the involvement of someone named Melsan. Mirka lets out an exasperated sigh, clearly annoyed by this complication. She complains about the other girl, a lingering presence she wishes was dead. A flashback shows the Hoshikusu magical girl declaring her resolve to fight back. A girl with star-shaped pupils leans in, commenting on another's overly confident, constant grin. The memory shows Mirka wishing for a very long time that the other girl would die. In the present, Seiya asks Mirka why she harbors such hostility towards her former comrade. With tears in her eyes, she demands to know what their relationship was. Her face contorts in pure shock and rage as she questions him with a guttural sound. He tries to calm her, asking if she intends to interfere, which she denies. An extreme close-up of her eye reveals her fury. She sees that she cannot stand it. Smashing her lollipop, she fumes that a mere human dares to act so arrogantly. She lunges, screaming at him not to trample so easily on a magical girl's past. Suddenly, a tiny skull-faced doll appears on the table, commanding her to stop her attack. The doll Mel warns Mirka that she will be punished again if she continues. While Seiya wonders where it came from, Mel reminds Mirka of the painful consequences. The doll then asks if she has calmed down enough to continue their briefing. A man bursts into the room, announcing that a message has arrived from their insider. This news prompts the doll to declare that they can now begin Phase 2. It proclaims the Subjugation Association will be annihilated in just 1 week. In a corridor, a YAKUZA leader instructs a bruised Akaganu, to guide someone. Akaginu wearily agrees, seeing a chance to report to the narcotics division. From behind, a hand claps down forcefully on Akaginu's shoulder, startling him. A blood-spattered newcomer with light hair cheerfully offers to be Akaginu's guide. The man Kirishima grabs Akaginu in a forceful but seemingly friendly headlock. He introduces himself as a new recruit, telling Akaginu to call him Kirichan-senpai. Kirishima's predatory eyes narrow as he questions Akaginu's stunned reaction. Akaginu realizes with horror this man has the exact same scent as the woman he just fought.